the new king of comedy, Rupert Pupkin. Come on, Mom! I gotta do this!
Keep it down! What's wrong?
Mom! The King of Comedy is a black comedy directed by Martin Scorsese, which stars Robert De Niro, Sandra Bernhard, and Jerry Lewis. It tells the story of Rupert Pupkin, a passionate yet unsuccessful comic who craves fame so much that he stalks and kidnaps his idol in order to demand the spotlight as a ransom. I had to read that off a piece of paper. If you saw Joker that came out last year with Joaquin Phoenix, it is that movie without the Joker. The filmmakers of that movie actually said that the King of Comedy was their biggest influence when making the Joker. First, we're going to do cinematography. As with any Scorsese movie, the cinematography is amazing. There are some really haunting and thoughtful moments that are completely driven by the photography. But then there's also some moments that are really dull and flat and poorly lit. So, yeah. But who am I to talk? I'm shooting this with lights, one light, and a Canon 80D. So, fuck me, right? Next up is acting. So, Scorsese movies are built on the performances, and this movie is no different. De Niro gives a very Joker minus the violence-esque performance. Bernhard gives one of the most psychotic female performances I've ever seen in my entire life. And Lewis gives a very subdued and quiet performance that is incredibly effective at building tension in the scenes. For this next one, I'm just gonna read right off the script because I can't say it better than I wrote it. The other extremely important thing performances in Scorsese movies do is make you empathize. I'm not sure sympathize, but definitely empathize with the characters. You'll watch incredibly disturbing scenes with characters that are more than a little nuts, and you'll come out with this weird understanding of them and what just happened, and more importantly, what they were feeling. So many other movies, I feel like moments are derived from moments that the filmmakers have seen in other movies. My siblings and I just made a movie, and it was a Halloween fan film, and so many of the scenes were based on scenes from the other movies. Or, conversations we had in the movie are based on conversations that I've experienced. And, I don't know, I always get that in a movie, like, where this doesn't feel like a genuine scene. It feels like a remake of a scene the filmmaker saw, and he's trying to recreate the feeling of that scene. And I never, ever get that feeling with a Scorsese movie, because the performances are so good that they always feel new and real and so genuine. Just really, really good. Back to the script. And that really has everything to do with the fact that Scorsese has to just set the camera on the actors and create these completely performance and character-driven scenes. The end result is moments that feel real. Well, now I feel stupid because I already said that without reading the script. God damn it. Next, we're going to talk about music. Robbie Robertson apparently made music for this movie, but if there was a score, I didn't hear it. However, Scorsese movies always use a lot of pre-existing music to an amazing effect. This movie in particular used a song by Van Morrison called... No, I know this. Wonderful Remark, which I had heard before, but even when I did hear it, if I had paid closer attention to the lyrics, the lyrics would have never made me think of a story like this. But when I heard it at the end of this movie, I was like, that's perfect. The song reads, "How can you stand the silence that pervades when we all cry? How can you watch the violence that erupts before your eyes? How can you tell us something just to keep us hanging on? Something that just don't mean nothing. When we see it, you are gone. Clinging to some other rainbow while we're standing, waiting in the cold. Telling us the same old story, knowing time is growing old. That was a wonderful remark. I had my eyes closed in the dark. I sighed a million sighs. I told a million lies to myself. How can we listen to you when we know your talk is cheap? How can we ever question why we give more and you keep? How can your empty laughter fill a room like ours with joy when you're only playing with us like a child does with a toy? How can you ever feel the freedom or the flame lit by the spark? How can we ever come out even when reality is stark? That was a wonderful remark. I had my eyes closed in the dark. I sighed a million sighs. I told a million lies. To myself, to myself. Perfect. Next, we're going to talk about the critics' response to the movie. Critics almost always like Martin Scorsese movies, and this time was no different. The Rotten Tomatoes critical consensus reads, largely misunderstood upon its release, the king of comedy today looks eerily prescient and features a fine performance by Robert De Niro as a strangely sympathetic psychopath. 89%. Let me pick a review to read you guys. We'll do Roger Ebert from the Chicago Sun-Times. He said, it is frustrating to watch, unpleasant to remember, and in its own way, quite effective. That was a positive review, I guess. Next, we're going to talk about the audience response to the movie. Nope. This movie does not get a point for audience. Upon its release, the movie bombed. Now, on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is a 90%, but I use this point to say if I think the movie is entertaining in a traditional sense, if it would appeal to audiences in a traditional sense. And I don't think it would. I think that the movie would make a lot of people very uncomfortable, and it's a character piece, and character pieces are always demanding of your attention. Like, one of my favorite movies is The Phantom Thread, but I think most people who watch that movie would say that was so boring. And this movie, I keep comparing it to The Joker. Think of the movie The Joker, if you've seen that, but the lead character isn't going to turn into this famous, iconic character, and he's not murderous and psychotic. I know I'm making it sound like The Joker's more entertaining, and I think in a lot of ways it is, but this is a better movie. But I can't give it the point here. And next is story. Story to me is always the most important part, so I always save it for last, and then I get here and I feel like I've already said the most important things. I gotta stop doing that. I love the story. I dislike nothing. And even though I said I don't think this movie would traditionally appeal to audiences, that's honestly one of my favorite things about the movie. Scorsese is a filmmaker who is all about telling a good story. He's often been criticized as completely disregarding plot in favor of story. And today I find that so refreshing. When I make a video, I have to consider the fact that if you don't grab the YouTube audience in the first 5 to 10 seconds, you've lost them. On Facebook, you have 1 second. 1 second. And that's the weird thing that really goes along with the theme of this movie. On YouTube, Facebook, whatever, it is more important to make an attention-grabbing video than it is to make a good video. That's weird. But getting back to Scorsese, even recently with movies like The Irishman, Scorsese has never been afraid to say, if you want brain candy, go watch TikTok. Not for much longer if you're in America. This movie is for people with a brain who can take their eyes off their phone, pay attention, and actually think about what they're watching. I feel like this review just got a little mean. I'm sorry. But seriously, making a movie like this takes serious... balls. So, I would recommend this movie to people who like character pieces, or who liked Joker that came out last year, or anybody who likes other Martin Scorsese movies, like The Wolf of Wall Street or Taxi Driver. This reminds me a lot of those movies. Specifically, the ending reminds me a lot of those two movies because I feel like they both carried some or similar themes. And so now I have to get into the last thing I want to talk about is the ending, which contains spoilers. So if you don't want to hear that, thanks for watching. Okay, if you're not gone, it's not my fault anymore. At the end of the movie, Rupert Pupkin kidnaps his idol, demands as a ransom that he gets the spot on the late night TV show to do his stand-up. He does it. He makes the police make sure that it airs on TV, and then he goes to jail. But he gets out 2 years into a 6-year sentence, releases an autobiography that becomes a bestseller, and gets adapted into a movie. And the very last shot is Rupert Pupkin standing in front of a packed, cheering audience. He's famous. He got what he wanted. The only problem is that he's imagined a lot of scenes throughout the movie. So the movie left me with the thought of, well, is it sicker that this may all be in his head? Or is it sicker that it may be real? Meaning, is it sicker that he got famous for getting attention? His act wasn't good. He basically got famous for being famous. And that is a really relevant thing to contemplate today. For example, Kim Kardashian got famous for leaking a dirty video of her with a pop star. Now she's one of the most richest and famous women of all time. Or there's that TikTok chain where people show their artwork to the audio of the guy saying, "So I make art that takes hours and I hardly get any likes. But Charli D'Amelio puts out a video of herself eating cake and gets millions of likes." And that's really what it's like today. Charli D'Amelio is a famous TikTok dancer who, let's be honest, is famous for being charming and sexy. And that gives her a lot of pull. If she released a book called How to Be a Famous TikTok Star, that thing would be a bestseller. Hands down, no doubt about it. And that's weird. But anyway, I'm gonna go watch TikTok, so I'll see you guys later.